Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio and video related products. Well, today we're taking another look at the Canon R10. Now, I recently purchased the R10 and I will be using it mainly in the studio. I've come outdoors to the, well, it might look like a greenhouse because it's absolutely, well, as you can see, I'm surrounded by plants. I feel like it's Day of the Triffids, but I'm actually in the conservatory outdoors. Although as it says, it doesn't look like it, but I am. In fact, I'm not the gardener here. It's my other half that is the gardener. So she loves her gardening, and hence the reason why there's a plethora of plants in here. But what I'm looking at today is a mode on the Canon R10, which I think is phenomenal for a camera of this price point. And the mode is called, it's for video, the mode is called HDR PQ. Now, it's not to be confused with HDR with photographs. That's basically a high dynamic range images. It takes about 4 or 5 images and you combine those to make one image. So a series are underexposed, overexposed and correctly exposed. And then you can combine those images so you've got a good dynamic range. You've got your highlights retained and you've got your shadows retained. Well, HDR in video is a very similar sort of thing. It films it to be able to retain the highlights and retain the shadows, but you need to be able to edit it correctly, otherwise you can't use it. So there's a lot of people who wouldn't use this mode. I was quite surprised, in fact I was extremely surprised to find this mode in the Canon R10, particularly as the R10 is their entry-level APS-C RF mount body. I'll put a link up here, I think it's up here, is it up here? Up here, to my initial review of the Canon R10, so you can actually take a look at that. I'm not going to go into its features and details here. Now, I'm filming this in the HDR PQ mode, purely to show you guys and gals how it looks. Now, I almost certainly won't use this all the time because when I'm in the studio, I'm combining it with other cameras. Now, I am actually filming a wide shot, which I can't see because it's probably, in fact, this plant will probably obliterate it. But there you go. There is a wide shot being filmed on my Nikon Z30 with the Sigma 18 to 35 lens on, but I very much doubt I'm going to be seen very much in it because of these plants, but there you go. Now, this HDR mode is very much designed for outdoor filming. So if you're filming in bright conditions and you want to retain the highlights that's in the sky, but also you want to retain the shadow detail that might be in the ground or it might be on buildings or whatever, or even on your face if you can't light the face. You want to be able to bring up the shadow detail. What I'll do, when we get back into the studio, I'll show you in Final Cut Pro how you actually use the HDR PQ mode. And that way you can see how well it works. Now, obviously in other edit programs you can do it, but I use Final Cut Pro, so I can only show you in Final Cut Pro how I would edit these files. And as I'm not a color grader, it's great that Final Cut Pro has predefined tools that enable you to work with HDR footage. Also, in this mode, it records it in 10-bit 422. And again, that's incredible for a camera at this price point. Most of the competition, I wouldn't say all because I don't know, but most of the competition will film in 8-bit 420. I mean, Nikon Z30 is 8-bit 420, and it's great that Canon have introduced the 10-bit 422 mode in their entry-level Canon R10. The other thing with the R10, it does support power delivery via the USB port. Now, I've struggled to find ways of getting that to work because Canon cameras are very specific with what sort of power delivery blocks you use, whether it be USB power block or a mains block. Now, I've purchased a USB power block off Amazon and it works beautiful. I'll put a link in the description of this video where you can purchase one from. You will need to get your own USB lead though. I'm using one from the MacBook Pro. That's a USB-C lead that is capable of doing power delivery and it's working beautiful. So I know that I'm not going to run out of battery power with this camera. The unfortunate thing with the Canon R10, it doesn't have a tally light on the camera or a red frame around the screen to show you that you are actually recording. I love it on the Z30 and my Sony ZV-E10. It has got a tally light, so even at this distance with my Nikon Z30, if I could see it, I can't because it's obscured by the plants, but if I could see that, I would be able to see the red tally light. And yes, I can see the red tally light is on when I lean up, so I can see that the Z30 is recording. I have to just hope that the R10 is recording. Obviously, I did set it to record, and that is great. And as I've said in my previous review, there is no video record limit on the R10, so you've got no problems with worrying about it running out. It will run out based on your battery running out or the SD card filling up. And I've got a 128 gig card in, which I formatted before I started this filming. So what we will do now is go into the studio and I'll show you how we edit this HDR PQ footage that is coming off the Canon R10. So what we'll do now, we'll edit this clip, and we have to put it, obviously to edit it, we have to put it onto the timeline. So we just hit E for edit, and it'll come up with this dialog box. Just to warn you that it is a HDR clip, and it will clip the highlights. The highlights will look incredibly bright. You need to be able to work with that. So click OK, and you can see here, obviously as you preview it, it is. The highlights are incredibly clipped. So what you need to be able to do is work with that. Now it's very easy to work with that. You go into your tools, so you go into make sure it's not in transition mode and that it's in not in transitions, but it's in effects, and you go down to where it says HDR mode. So what we'll do, we'll look for HDR mode. I could do it an easier way, I guess, but we'll do it this way. So HDR tools. There we go. So just click on HDR tools and drop it on, and straight away there's an improvement. You can see there, without even doing any editing, there's an improvement. It's still not right. So you can see here, it's converted it now from HDR PQ to Rec 709. And Rec 709 is the standard viewing mode that we use for video editing. But I find it better if you use PQ to Rec 709. I just find that gives you a more natural look. And you can see here, now that's nearly perfect. I think that's absolutely fine, and you can work with that. You've got detail in the highlights and you've got detail in the shadows. So without even having to do any colour grading, that would work absolutely fine. So you can see here that's done a pretty decent job without doing any editing. All I've done is dropped onto the timeline the HDR tools effect and changed it from HDR to PQ to Rec 709, and that's done a pretty decent job. But what we can do is go into the colour wheels and adjust the shadows, the highlights and the midtones, just fine tune it. Most people would probably put up the RGB parade so you can actually see what effect it is having as you adjust the various parameters. So you can take that, you can take the shadows down. We might want to bring the highlights down a bit. In fact, I might want to take the shadows up a bit. You get the general gist, so you can play around with it until you get the effect. Let's adjust the midtones until you get the effect that you're looking for without having to do any really serious colour grading, because colour grading isn't something that I do. I don't have the time to do colour grading, and I find using this tool is excellent. So I'm filming this sequence on the Canon R10 in the HDR PQ mode, just the same as I did outdoors, and I shall edit it pretty much the same way as I would have done the outdoor sequence. Although, to be fair, in here I don't really need to use a HDR PQ mode because there won't be bright highlights and deep shadows. Well, hopefully there won't be. I'm still using the same, I think I've got the 16mm full frame RF lens fitted to the R10. That's a nice lens. Actually, I did have a 50mm lens outdoors. In here, I've put the 16mm lens on. It's a great lens, great combination. It's a full frame lens, but works great on the APS-C body. You just got to take into account the 1.6 times crop factor. But there we go. That's how you use. Well, it's not how you use, because I'm not a teacher. But that's how you can use the HDR PQ mode on the entry level Canon R10, and I think it's great that they've included that, and with this particular camera, as it isn't really being sold as a dedicated video camera. I think the R7 is obviously going to be a better option for that, mainly because it's got a headphone jack as well, where this one hasn't got a headphone jack. But you can do great video with it and great content with it. And I'm as I say, I'm filming with it now, and I filmed this sequence with it. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found that useful. It isn't a tutorial on how you use HDR PQ mode. It is purely just showing you that you can use the HDR PQ mode for filming outdoors, particularly to make sure you don't clip your highlights and you don't lose shadow detail. I think it's great for that. So thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos relating to video, photography, podcasting, so on and so forth. If you haven't already subscribed, that really does help me grow the channel, and I really appreciate that. There'll be more videos about the Canon R10 and various other cameras as well. So thanks very much for watching. Cheers for now. Bye.